welcome everyone. Hello, this is the Beyond the Scale series, Real Life Stories, and I'm here with Margot Freitag, and she is a holistic wellness coach. Holistic.
Yeah, I would say health practitioner.
Health practitioner, yes, you did say that to me. And I'm so excited to have her here today because Margot, not only are we friends, we've never really met in person, but we've been connected for a long time and we have so much in common. But I'm here, I wanted her to come on today to share her story around plant-based eating, how she healed her body, you know, struggles with body image, dieting, all that stuff, right? And so I just really wanted to have her on. So welcome, Margot.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa. It's my pleasure.
You're welcome. So you do a lot in your life, and I know you're very passionate about wellness. And I was reading your bio, and I didn't realize how much you and I have in common. Teaching aerobics at a very young age. We both love horses. We both went to massage school. I don't know if you knew that about me.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Oh my goodness, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, so we have so much in common, which is I love. But I would love to hear from you kind of your story, because I know that you've shared with me personally that you've struggled with some of the body image stuff and the yo-yo dieting, but you also got into plant-based eating, and that changed your life in a big way. So just would kind of love to hear about that.
Yeah, so, you know, plant-based eating was not on my radar for most of my life, right?
Yeah.
I think the very first time I started to notice that I was worried about the size of my thighs was probably when I was under 10. Even though I was not ever, like, I wasn't overweight at that stage in my life, but it was something that I became aware of. Like, I think I saw a child that was overweight, and suddenly I thought to myself, like, I just started thinking about that. You know, I started thinking about, was that me? Could that be me? At a really young age, really.
That's interesting that you put, like, that you saw a child that was overweight and you kind of put it together of, like, is that necessarily a bad thing? I'm wondering if that's something that you heard or if media brought that to you.
I don't know what that was. I can tell you, though, that I was living in Australia at the time.
Oh.
We were there on sabbatical. My dad was on sabbatical leave from the university. And I remember all I wanted was a yellow bikini, because that's what the girls in the Hawaiian tropic commercials were wearing at the time.
Yes.
And it was like being a beautiful beach girl was the thing, right? And I was such a little girl. That was already ingrained in me.
Yes.
And, you know, there was a little girl I was a swimmer. I was on a swim team. And there was a little girl on my swim team who was a little bit overweight. And I remember making that connection, like, you know,
right.
Did I look like that? You know, I don't even know what that conversation was at that time, but I remember making that connection and being concerned.
Right.
So, but I didn't really struggle with my weight until I got to high school.
Okay.
You know, hormones and all of that, things started changing, grade 8, grade 9, maybe. And it became a massive issue in my life. Like, it was such an all-consuming issue. And so not only was I overweight and hated my body, I was also struggling with my health. So I had asthma, allergies, brain fog, which I didn't really realize at the time that it was brain fog. I thought that's just life,
how you live.
Right?
Yeah.
And, but I really hated my body. And it was always like yo-yo dieting, up and down, binging and purging, some of that happening. And just a complete preoccupation. I would say that I was truly in prison. There's so much that I missed out on because of that preoccupation with food, the hate on for my body, the wishing it could be different, and yet this dichotomy, right? The struggle and it never working, and the starving and the hunger, and then the overeating.
Oh, so, how long did that go on for you? So it sounds like it started at a really young age. And so how many years did that go on for you?
Well, it's really interesting that I joined. So first of all, I had this struggle with not knowing what to do or how to handle it. And And then I joined a weight loss clinic, and I think I was 16.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember riding my bike there every day because I didn't have my license to drive yet. And it was I remember the very first meeting, and it was like, go home, eat everything you want because
Oh,
tomorrow it's going to change.
oh gosh.
Right? And so I remember it was Twizzlers and McDonald's and all of that.
Oh
And
man.
then the next day it was, you know, weighing and measuring food, standing on the scale, 2 ounces of cheese. You couldn't eat carrots, too high in sugar, but you could have all the cheese and meat you wanted, right? It was that.
Wow.
And so that's when the yo-yo started.
Right.
Right.
And what did I mean, did your parents have any idea this was going on? I mean, at the age of 16, joining a weight loss clinic, is that something that your parents have to sign off on if you're not an adult? I never joined a weight loss clinic. I had all the craziness with dieting, but
yeah,
what, like, how did your parents kind of handle this?
if I could just say this, like, I was 135 pounds.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't obese,
Right.
right?
Right.
It was more the struggle.
Right.
And so I think that my parents probably let me do it. I think they saw signs that I was, maybe having some sort of an eating disorder.
Right.
They never talked to me about it. We never had a conversation about it. There was no open communication in that respect. But maybe they said okay to that, thinking it would somehow resolve some of that. I don't really remember.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Gosh, and I don't know if this is true for you, but, I grew up, actually, I was an athlete most of my life. And for me, it was the Sports Illustrated swimsuit models. I know you and I have talked about this before.
Yeah.
But I was an athlete and I really wasn't ever overweight. I just thought I was, I didn't gain weight until later in my life. I gained an extra 30 pounds that I was carrying around. But when I was younger, I was like super athletic and fit, but I didn't see that. And I just always thought, and that was part of me becoming an aerobics instructor. Because I know that you, at the age of 17, I think so I started going to the gym at 14, and by the time I was 16, I was allowed to teach. And that's when I started teaching aerobics. So was that part of it for you too?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only good part of being obsessed with weight loss, and yo-yo dieting and body dysmorphia is fitness.
Right. You get really involved in fitness. Yeah.
Right. We're super fit.
Yeah.
And so I was doing aerobics regularly, and I had a background in gymnastics, which didn't help my cause.
Oh, right.
And
Makes
dance.
sense.
Yeah. So I was pretty good at aerobics. I had a natural, natural way, I guess.
Yeah.
And so the club actually invited me to train to be an aerobic instructor.
Awesome.
And, which was really good for me actually at the time.
Yeah.
So I started teaching aerobics when I was 17. It was wonderful. But it didn't help me with the eating, for sure.
Yeah.
It was good. It was one of the good things, for sure.
Yeah. So how long did you live in Australia? When did you leave Australia?
Oh, I was 9 when we left.
Okay. And then did you go to Canada right from there where you are now? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just a 1-year thing.
Got it. Okay. But at that time it was all about the yellow bikini and having the Hawaiian tropic body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. You know what's crazy? I've gotten into beach volleyball at a very late time in my life. I wish I would have started when I was a kid. And I've been in quarantine. I've been watching these old AVP matches, which is the pro beach volleyball players. And it's so funny because they used to have the volleyball cheerleaders and the girls in their little teeny bikinis. And I think to myself, like, how much things have changed. They don't have any of that anymore. But it's just also, it's kind of like how we progress as humans and like women, right, standing up for their own rights and not being these symbols anymore. Like a lot of that's been changing. And I think when you and I grew up, that was like so prevalent in our society and in our media. And, I know for me, it really messed with my head in a huge way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So
being athletic wasn't even necessarily like, you didn't want to be too athletic.
Right.
because that wasn't feminine enough, you know?
Oh, I was a tomboy. I didn't care about femininity.
Well, no, I know, but it was a struggle. It was just
I hear you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's so interesting that at such a young age, we can get this thing in our head, right? And our bodies aren't even developed really yet. And it starts at such a young age, you know?
Yeah.
I've had clients tell me, you know, one girl said it started for her at the age of 7. She was climbing up a tree and a little boy looked up and said, "Your thighs are as big as tree trunks." And like that the next day she started dieting, you know, and that's how long it's been going on for her. So what was it that shifted for you? Like, talk about your journey of how you shifted this relationship with your body and how you saw your body, and then how the plant-based eating came into all of that as well.
Yeah. So this is interesting. So I wanted to be an actress. I had a lifelong dream of being an actress, and I moved to Vancouver, British Columbia, and I was waitressing and acting. And going to auditions, and I really just wanted the waitressing part of my life to be over.
Yeah.
And I decided, because I was into fitness and athletic, and wanted to do something around fitness, I thought that I'd get into massage therapy. I thought it would be great. And my thoughts in my head at the time were, I'll do massage therapy in between my auditions, and this way I can set my own schedule. And
right, makes sense.
It was entrepreneurial. And so the massage therapy program did 2 things. So first of all, my nutrition teacher in my massage therapy program was Brenda Davis.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Interesting.
So she was the first person who actually introduced this idea that there are some things that you eat that make you sick, and there are things that can make you healthy. And I had struggled with asthma my whole life. In fact, it had gotten really severe toward the end of high school and into my early 20s. And so that was the first little light bulb moment. And then the other thing was this whole idea of people just, I don't know if you would have experienced this, but being touched in a way that was therapeutic, in a way that allowed me to accept somebody touching my body and not judging it.
Yes, that's huge. Yeah, that's huge.
Like it was so like, it was just a huge piece of me, of body acceptance.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So those are the 2 things that kind of happened at the time. And then I didn't really, kept up with all of the usual, the yo-yo dieting, and the lots of running, lots of triathlons and stuff like that. Until I had a family, and I had a little boy who was 3 years old when he was starting to cough a lot. And I took him in, he was diagnosed, well, I don't know if it was a true diagnosis, but they gave him puffers and said he has asthma. And my asthma battle had been long and horrible and arduous, and I knew I didn't want that for him. And I knew from Brenda's training, I mean, I had, been taught by her for a year. I knew that what we needed to do. So we went plant-based kind of overnight, and I didn't realize all of the things that would happen. So first of all, the asthma disappeared right away, like 3 days.
Amazing.
So that was the first part. Allergies went away, like all of the allergies, the pollen allergies, the everything, all of that got better. And then the fog lifted. Like I was like, oh, this is real.
Wow.
Like,
right. Like,
clarity,
yeah.
Right? Mental clarity.
Yeah.
And then this idea that I wasn't really dieting. I just wasn't eating cheese and meat and all of that.
Right.
And I wasn't, my body wasn't going up and down. I mean, I wasn't yo-yo dieting. That kind of just
there wasn't a lot of the fluctuation. It was more,
yeah, like I wasn't having to really watch.
Right.
And the yo-yo dieting kind of got better.
Okay.
Now, it wasn't an automatic weight loss program.
Right.
By any stretch.
Right.
And it didn't resolve all of my issues.
Right.
That took a lot of work, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was the beginning of it all.
Yeah. Now, when you say resolve your issues, did you do other work? Because I know for me, I had to go into my belief system and my emotional realm and all of that to really heal my relationship with myself, which played out through food, right? Like emotionally eating, all the yo-yo dieting, which is just so traumatic to ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I worked with someone for a long time to really work through that. Did you have support with that? And what are some of the things that you started to do to help yourself with that?
So I never had support with that.
Okay.
I never
Good.
got help. Well, no, I don't know if that's good.
Well, it sounds like you've worked yourself through it.
Yeah, definitely lots of reading and self-help
Yeah.
and self-investigation. So I mean, I remember asking myself, how long are you just gonna, like, this isn't working. The
Yeah.
hating, the hating my body and hating
Ugh.
myself, it's not working.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to live that way anymore.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, it was a lot of personal growth and personal investigation, but I remember thinking, like, my body, I hated it, right? I just was,
I feel
I
you.
hate my thighs, I hate my butt, I hate this, that, and that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I remember thinking, well, what about my eyes?
Mm,
Like, I can see, you know, I have a heart that's
yeah.
pumping, I have lungs that are really trying hard for me. I have, you know, I may not like my legs, but I can walk. I can
Right.
run.
Right.
There's nothing I can't do. I'm fully able-bodied.
Right.
Right?
Which is
And so
phenomenal. Yeah.
it's just, so if we could just start to shift that, you know, start to shift that whole, instead of hating these certain parts, start appreciating the miracle that it really is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so that was a huge piece. And then the just loving yourself, starting
Yeah.
to really honor who you are and love who you are and understand that, I mean, I still do and say dumb things, and I'm not always super proud of, you know, every step I take.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's okay. It's all just part of the journey.
Yeah.
It's really about self-acceptance. And then that whole the other part was the healing the child,
Yes.
the inner child.
Huge.
Huge
Huge.
piece for me. So going in and meeting up with that child again was really heavy and deep work.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like I came a long way on my own. I made a decision about not being harmful to my body, like the, you
Mm,
know, early on, like the binging and the purging. I just made a decision one day that no matter what else happens, I'm not doing that.
yes.
And
Yes.
it was just like a step, like an action of self respect and self care,
Yeah.
even though I didn't know what was going to come.
Right.
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 So those were some of the things that I started to do with myself, my personal investigation and um, reading and all of that. I did a lot
Yeah.
of reading back in the 80s, Shakti Gowan and
Oh,
Dan Millman and all of
yes. Oh,
that. And
yes. Dan Millman. Love it.
yeah. So those kinds of things back then. And then I got some help later on.
Yeah.
And it kind of solidified that I was on the right track, and it just helped me
Yeah.
um, take it to the next level.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Gosh, when you talk about healing the inner child, right? A lot of people, I think they become afraid of this work because they don't know if they're going to find some big trauma there or if they have to go back and heal. And so like, I'm wondering for you, like, what was the biggest thing you discovered about your inner child? Like, for me, I had some big wounds, you know, like big inner child wounds. So what was the biggest thing you discovered that you needed to heal from your inner child?
Oh, Melissa. Okay, so first I'll say for everybody who's listening, if you're thinking right now, I don't want to do that. I just want to lose 10 pounds,
Right.
right? The 10 pounds is not, it's not about the 10 pounds,
Right.
like, or the 20 or the 50 or whatever.
Right.
It's
Right.
about, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. That's just the external thing that we're looking for to that we think will change something for us, but ultimately it doesn't.
Yeah, you got to heal.
You have to heal.
And healing is not, it's not like you're damaged.
Right.
Everybody, you're not damaged.
Right.
You just think you're damaged.
Yeah. That was
Right?
huge for me. Like when my coach said to me, you know, you're not broken. You don't have to fix anything. Cause I walked around believing I was fully broken. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll never get a boyfriend until I heal. I'll never have the body I want, you know, like I'm just broken. And I walked around feeling that way for a lot of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's huge. And I think I was like that too. So to be able to go back and first of all, ask that child what it is she needed.
Yes.
What was missing.
Yeah.
And I think that there was a sense of abandonment.
Yes.
A sense of feeling inconsequential in my family. I was the youngest, and my brother
Me
was.
too. Another thing in common.
Yeah, isn't that funny? So my brother was like this superstar athlete. He went to Oxford University. He became a personal injury lawyer. He's like, he was the man, right? And then there was me. And I didn't feel like, well, because going through high school, I had struggled so much with my health and brain fog and asthma and allergies and addicted to Otrivin and, Ventolins and steroids for lungs and all of that, never mind the weight and the preoccupation with all that. I mean, I'm just like amazed I graduated from high school. So, so there was this feeling of being inconsequential in my family and not being a very important part of the family. And also my mom went back to work when I was in grade 3. And so for a long time, I came home from school every day and I was by myself.
That's hard.
Every day for many hours, right? And so not that it's anybody's fault. My mom felt she needed to work. They needed to work.
Yeah, I mean, people had to do what they had to do,
They had to, yeah. So, I mean, there was this feeling of being, I don't want to say this in a way that's sounds like I'm being hard on myself, because I'm not. But there was this feeling like I was a victim of my circumstances.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. I might have been, and I found this really amazing way to cope as a child. And that way to cope was to find food that felt good, that tasted good, and that felt like it was nurturing me.
Yes.
And it was a way to self-soothe. And so, for a long time, I battled with that. But the truth of the matter is that I started to realize that was really resourceful of me. I was just a little kid looking for something, right?
Right.
And it worked. It worked at that time in my life.
Yes.
But now, as I got older and it started to be a problem,
right,
I had to realize at some stage that it's okay that happened and it worked, and it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
So now what do I do?
Right.
I get to find another way to soothe.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. It's just I so resonate on so many levels, the inconsequential, the abandonment, all of that. And I think on some level, a lot of us can really relate to that, and at some point in our lives feeling that sense of abandonment or, and I'm thinking to myself, gosh, could you imagine in this day, like a parent leaving their child home from I'm going to work, you get home from school and their kids are home for hours on end alone. I can't even imagine that today.
No, I mean, I'm sure it happens.
I'm sure it happens.
And I'm sure it's not that the parents are bad parents.
Right.
It's just there's a need. And the need is usually financial.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I understand it. I understand that.
Totally.
I also understand that the children need nurturing, and they need a sense of security, and they need, and I would add that every child might have different needs.
Yes,
Some kids
absolutely.
might be just fine with it. Some kids might just say,
Right.
okay, well, I'm going to join the track team, and so I won't come home after school, or
Right.
but I guess, I don't know,
Yeah. It's
everybody,
different for everybody.
it's
Yeah.
just different for everybody.
Yeah. I remember when my mom went back to work, I probably was around that same age, around like third grade. And I had two older brothers. So we were always all together.
Mm,
But I remember like she would work like half days or something, but she would go, I don't remember exactly, but I remember watching her drive away one day and I was at our big picture window and she was leaving. And I just remember feeling, even though my brothers were there, but I just remember feeling so abandoned and alone and sad that my mother was leaving, you know? And I
yeah.
just have such a vivid memory of that. And like, you know, my father really wasn't ever around. So I already had that issue going on, but like, I just really remember that feeling of like her leaving and me being like, don't go, mom, you know, like she was,
Yeah.
I think she was my only safe haven, you know, and when she was gone, it was really hard for me, you know? So
Yeah.
same thing. I learned how to self-soothe with food and, you know, use food. I had my whole top dresser drawer filled with candy, you know, and nobody knew it, but I'd be up there just, you know, eating, like all I cared about was eating candy because it just, I think it just gave me this sense of soothing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's incredible the work that you've done. And, you know, and I know that, and the way plant-based eating has changed your world. It changed my world so much too. And same thing, asthma, migraine headaches, irritable bowel syndrome, all of that stuff, all of the illness I grew up with as well. And, you know, and also another incredible thing that I'm learning a lot about is how trauma in childhood, I had a lot of trauma in childhood, how it affects you, your health as an adult as well. And so I think that people who have a lot of trauma growing up, it's important that they really take care of themselves and learn how to honor and respect their bodies. And that's, I
Yeah.
love what you shared about how it's been a journey for you to really get to that place of like, this doesn't work anymore. I don't want to treat myself this way. So that piece is going to stop. And then I'm going to go on this journey of, you know,
Yeah.
figuring out how to honor and respect myself.
Yeah, and I think that for it's sort of like that hitting that bottom, you know. I think people
Totally.
need to know that it can't go on this way,
Right.
and that it's important to get help.
Yeah.
You can't just say tomorrow I'm going to start over, and I'm, this time I'm
Right. Oh, I'll go on that. I'll try that new keto diet. That'll be
yeah,
the thing.
because it's not the answer,
No.
right?
And it has nothing to do with the food, really. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about what our beliefs are, how we're treating ourselves, where our mindset is, right? It has,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I would add, there's at some point it went from self-soothing to punishment,
Right.
you
Right.
know? Uh,
Totally.
because when you're mad at yourself or you feel you didn't get it perfect, it's
Mm.
like, yeah, I'll start again
Oh, that
today.
perfectionism thing with food is so like rampant, you know, in our society today. And
Yeah,
this all or nothing thinking around, if I don't, you know, if I have the one cookie, forget it, my whole day is ruined, right? Which is just,
right, right.
yeah,
And it's so pervasive. Like
right,
it really, it doesn't make any sense. And
right.
yet it's how so many of us uh,
Think,
think and
yeah,
behave. And it's because of this whole extreme approach to dieting. It's that
right,
dieting industry, dieting mentality.
right,
So there is a better way. And
yeah,
it's all about loving yourself and
yeah.
starting with some self respect. And it's hard to tell somebody, just love yourself more.
What the hell does that
Like,
even mean?
what? Yeah, right.
How do I do that? Right.
Right.
It's it's a process and it's one that I've had to really learn myself. And you know, I've done a lot of work around it, you know, and I think that we also expect things to change very quickly versus like, you know, it's a journey. There's not a destination. It's a lifelong journey, you know?
Yeah.
So So all this said, you now bring this, you work with clients around, my dog might bark because the mailman's here, but you work with clients around really helping them with all of this now, right? So tell me me what you do, how you work with your clients and all that.
Yeah. So, I run a program, and it really does start with changing the food or getting the food sort of straightened out. And it's really also not about being perfect. It's not about being a vegan,
Right.
but it is about eating more plants. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care how much personal work you do, if you're not getting the food straightened out, and not necessarily perfect, but you got to be eating healthy food. You got to be eating nutrient dense food,
Right.
lots of fiber that's going to, give you all the nutrition that you need. And it
Yes.
just so happens that that's plants. And so if we can just embrace some dietary or nutritional change,
Yeah.
then the rest of it is easier.
Yeah. We need nourishment. I mean, when a lot of people don't even think about nourishment. And I think about nourishment from a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level. We need it in all realms, right? And the food piece, it doesn't mean you can't eat ice cream or cookies or have things here and there, right? But it's about how you really nourish your physical being.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so exactly that. And then, so once we sort of address the food, then we get into that whole other piece, the psychology.
And do you help people kind of identify, their limiting beliefs and kind of these things these lifelong patterns that have been in place that show up, in their day-to-day life, is that something that you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge part of it. So my program is a year long.
Oh,
And
awesome.
We tackle all of it, right? So
wow, talk about an awesome immersion, like a way to really make a powerful transformation.
Yeah, I mean, Melissa, and I know transformation takes time, right?
Yeah.
It's not a quick fix. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
But and there are lots of pieces, right, to the puzzle.
Yes. Yeah.
And yes, those limiting beliefs are huge. I mean, it doesn't matter how hard you try and how much motivation you can, drum up. But if you have a limiting belief that you can't because, you've got all this proof from your past that says you can't, then it's hard to beat. So those limiting beliefs have to be dealt with for sure.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones that shows up with my clients is I'll never lose the weight, right? Like they have a limiting belief that like I'll never ever be able to lose the weight. So what's the point? Why should I even try? Right? Like I've failed so many times.
Right. And people, and then they prove that to themselves, right?
Of course.
So this is all my evidence from what happened before. Yep. And every time I fail, or every time I negotiate myself out of what I want to achieve today, I prove again that what happened in the past is the way it is.
See, see, I told you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you have a year-long program. I also know that you're going to be doing something at the end of this month, a virtual type retreat. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So of course, my whole plan was to have my very first live event. It's a 3-day live event planned for San Diego. This month. It would have been awesome. And of course, with COVID and everything that's happening, that can't happen. So that came to an abrupt halt. And I was feeling really sad about that. And then I got this bright idea that I'm not going to abandon the plan, that we're going to do it anyway. It's just virtual. It's going to be online. And so on the 28th, 29th, and 30th of this month, there is going to be a live virtual event called Healthy Life Live.
Awesome.
And it will be covering everything that we've talked about today, Melissa. So it's
great.
Getting the nutrition right and dealing with individual needs and all of the behaviors associated with self-sabotage and all of it.
So you're going to be teaching and really like bringing throughout the day, like workshop-y, it sounds like teaching different.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be different than the original plan, but what I thought was I'd do two 2-hour chunks
Great.
each day. So 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the
That
afternoon.
sounds perfect.
And then, of course, what we've had lots of success with is our 5-day challenge. So what I've decided to do is try to incorporate the challenge piece in with the event, so that
That's
people,
awesome.
yeah, so people can start seeing how things can change right now.
And have the accountability and the support and all of that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So how can people find out about that? Is it on your website or getting on your email list?
So I can give you a link, Melissa, if you want to put that in.
Great.
And
Okay.
Link to sign up.
Yeah. And tell people also your website and where you are on Facebook too.
Sure. So Facebook, I'm actually not there a lot, but it's Margot Freitag, at Margot Freitag, Taiga Whole Health, I believe.
Okay.
And Instagram is margot.freitag. That's my new Instagram account that I'm just
Yay.
working on.
And it's F-R-E-I, right? F-R-E-I-T-A-G.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then my website is taigawholehealth.com. T-A-I-G-A.
Awesome. Yay. Okay. So before we wrap up, I have one more question, and I ask all of my guests this. What does it mean to you to live life beyond the scale?
It's freedom.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what it is. It's just being able to live fully and live to your greatest potential and not be thinking about food and your body all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to say, not like when I was in it, 99.9% of my headspace was taken up by that. And I missed out on so much living. I think you probably feel that way too.
Yeah. I mean, we're catching up. We're catching up.
Right.
But there are a lot of missed days.
Yeah.
Lots of life that was
lots
missed.
of missed days. And we have to focus on nourishing ourselves on all levels, right? I know you have horses, which I'm so jealous. You get to be with your horses and you live in a beautiful place and you've created an incredible life for yourself. And through all of this, we really can thrive, not just survive. And so I'm so glad you shared your story, and thank you so much for being here. And this was just such a pleasure.
Thank you, Melissa. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. We always have good talks.
I know. I love it. I love it.